Good morning, everybody. How you doing? Oh, everybody's here. All the guests are here. We got the full house now. Well, except for Danielle. Danielle's still on the road. She sent a message. She won't be in here today, but she's likely coming back very soon. But I'm excited about this one. Ooh, why am I excited? Because it's call to action day. This is call to action day. This means we're going to ask you to do a bunch of things. You're here, you're watching, you want to do stuff, you want to help. We get lots of messages. Well, today's the day about making sure that you understand what help we can use, what help we can get, and what help you can do. Because there's a lot of things that people want to do, but there's only a few things that we can do that would be very helpful. So we're going to get into that today because there's a call to action. And as part of that call to action is independent reporting, citizen journalism. All of you, every single one of you that isn't accredited, you mean government approved, you can be a citizen journalist too. And boy, would I like to see much more, much more. This is growing great, but if we actually grew the journalism side of things, the actual journalists out there, this would grow even more. And when you have one or two voices, it only takes one or two voices to silence or counter on a narrative to cause problems. But when you have thousands of journalists working the narrative, working the agenda, countering the problems out there, you actually have a lot more chance of actually doing that. Are you happy with the journalism that you see other than here? Probably not, because I'm not. So you'd like to see a lot more of these. So today is going to be about call to action, and I'm going to be calling you guys to become journalists as well. So around that, what we did is we have an actual legacy journalist who turned into an independent journalist. And she's going to be talking to us about how she's doing that, what kind of reporting she can do now, what she does as a freelancer, what drew her to the Coutts situation, and why she feels compelled to continue. And then we also got Gord coming back. Oh, man, I love this guy. He's a trucker. He's a writer. He's an inspiration. And he's also carrying a lot of Canadian weight on his back as he travels to the U.S. with us. So we got him back as well. And, of course, we got Donald and Granny. Donald's been kicking some butt going out there in interviews and telling the story, correcting the record, getting it out there, getting people to understand how he went from lock them up to get them out. It's a bit of a transition. It's a good one, too. It's a very compelling one. So I'd like to thank everybody who's watching right now, because today is the call to action and get the message out. So we're going to start by bringing in Donald. Hey, Donald. And we're bringing in Granny. Hi, Granny. And there's no Danielle. Hey, Granny, let's hear your audio today. I haven't heard you yet today.
Oh, I hope I don't sound robotic.
Ooh, nope, you're back. You're back. I guess they took you off the list. Maybe it was just court week. They were really intent on playing around with your audio, but you sound great. Thank you for working on that. And then Donald, you've been kicking some butt. I'm surprised you're awake because you were up late. You were doing a good show last night.
I want to get some sleep and have a nap today, but I have too much work. Listen, I've adjusted my microphone. I'm a little further away from it, turned it up a bit. How does it sound compared when I was really close to it?
I don't know. Give me a recipe. Like we said,
test.
You're good there. Yeah. Okay, when you went like that, a little too much. And then how's mine?
Excellent. Just great. Isn't it nice to have a nice microphone?
It is decent.
By sure, they're going to send us $100 now or what?
I don't know. Click the affiliate link in the description below. There's no links. But no, this was actually a gift from a fan of the show. Somebody's been watching the show for about a year, and he said, Jay, you could probably sound better. Your content is good, but the clarity needs some work. So there we go. Sent a mic.
That's a really good mic and not cheap. Good. He must like it.
Can't really comment on that. Yeah, can't comment on that. It was a gift, but I do really appreciate it. And I think the people who listen appreciate it as well. So thank you very much. So there we go. Mic check, and we're all good. Donald, Jay, and Granny's mic checks are good. But Granny, you're excited about today. You already sent me an email with some information that we can share, addresses and stuff like that. So you're ready to do your call to action, I hope.
Yes.
And yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I am. Yeah. Like I've always said, we're stronger together and we need a voice. And I've been taking some pushback in the last day.
Me too.
Yeah. Like people going, Tony's an adult, he could do this himself. Oh, he can he? Okay.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, it is. It's weird and very similar messages. So I don't know if it's a troll out there. I don't know who's doing this. But they don't want help for Tony, apparently. They want him to stand on his own 2 feet in a remand center where nobody will listen to him. May you
Right.
never end up in a remand center for 535 days. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, and I got an interesting one that says, I'm not qualified to represent these men. I'm not representing these men, okay? I am an ex-paralegal who has some skills, that particular skills. And that's all I got here, folks. I'm not trying to represent the men. I represent myself, and I think I do a good job at that. But it's weird. It's weird how we're getting what we call in the industry shade. And this is people who come along and just kind of put some shade on you, take away the spotlight type of thing. That's what we call that. They're not necessarily attacking you, but they're not helping, and they're kind of adding this negativity to you.
Well, some
it's
people
weird.
some people come on my page and they said, well, because my page, I've been from day one, I said, this is support for 4 men that don't have a voice. It's support for their families. It's called a support page. So they say, well, you're not giving freedom of speech. And I'm going,
It's not for free. We're not government officials.
Yeah. So I said, like, just move on. And if they cause too much trouble, you know, there's this great invention called the delete button. And I'm sorry, I'll use it. I'm not going to have distractions from what I'm doing. Go get your own page. Have a good time over there. But I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, just like you guys are. We'll keep going forward. No sideways distraction.
It's weird. It's weird. Like, I understand the trolls and the negative people and the people that are like kind of brainwashed on the agenda and the narrative. I get those people. In fact, they're easier to deal with because you know what you're dealing with. But then you get these ones that come in as help, as support, as people that are going to be there. But then they drop the shade on you. And they're like, oh, well, I know one of like, this is a common one a lot of people hear. I know one of the men. 2 things could be true at once. That narrative. Weird. It's weird. Like, do they care about these men or not? Or is there something else going on?
Yeah, I think something pretty shady is going on out there.
Shady. There you go, Granny. It's time to be comfortable and get her tan like Jerry will. He'll be out in the sun and get a little bit of sun. That's what we're working on here, right?
Yeah.
But on that note, we got 2 wonderful guests here. So one of them, Mel, you don't know, but you might know because she's an independent journalist, a freelance journalist, and she reached out and she was just really thrilled that we're covering it and really thrilled that the message is getting out. And I had a great conversation with her about empowering people to do this and empowering her as well to get more involved. So she said, yes, let's talk about that. And of course, we got Gord, who's already been doing this, and he wants to do a bit of an update because I believe he's now speaking to some of the men or all the men. I'm not sure how many at this point. And he's now hearing the inside story from the men. So I believe he's going to be talking a bit about that as well. And then the call to action to help these men, the things that we can do, writing to our ministers, writing to the actual remand center for them. And then it was Chris Lysick who gave me a tip. They're tearing off the return envelope addresses. So he's asked us to tell people to put it into the letter so that he can respond to them because they suddenly started to take the return addresses away.
Yeah, they've actually been doing that for some time. I thought it was maybe, labels, but it's not. There's one guard or mail sorter that seems to come on shift and tear these labels off. So that's so
sporadic.
Mean. It's
just
mean.
petty.
Yeah.
I know maybe he saw his family members supported him. He's like mad now. He's like, get this off here.
No, but it's sad that somebody would even do that.
But that's example of one of the tips that we'll be giving today so that people can get the messages to them and get a response because these men do like to respond. So let me go ahead and bring in Gord, our autonomous driver. How you doing there, Gord? Did I catch you? Almost.
Good morning, everybody. Yeah.
Good morning. How are you?
Oh, I'm fantastic as always. You mentioned hearing from the boys. I've been very honored. 2 of the gentlemen have called me, Mr. Carbert and Mr. Olenek. I spoke with Tony last night for an hour. He burned through 3 of his 20-minute
previous calls.
Yeah. I'm floored and I'm humbled.
He's amazing.
I remember when Chris Carbert called me and was telling me about his children, and I almost wanted to cry, man. Like, I'm a father. I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, and I can't imagine being locked away from my kids for 18 months over this nonsense. Like, I don't know how these guys keep marching, and I'm just amazed at how positive and upbeat they remain. Like, it comes through in spades. You can hear it in their voices that they're not taking any crap, and they're keeping their spirits high. I'm truly amazed.
It is, and you said you didn't cry yet, but you will. It's going to happen.
It's probably going to happen. Yeah.
Have you spoken to Lysick yet?
I haven't heard from the other two.
That's how I know you haven't cried yet. Yeah, that's how I know you haven't cried yet. When you talk to Lysick, his heart comes right out, like right out. There is no guarding his heart, so you feel it. When you talk to Chris Lysick, you're going to really. The other guys are a little guarded because they're still men and they want to, show good. Chris, he wears it all on his sleeve. Granny, I'm correct about that one, right?
Oh, he's such, and he's a large man. Like he's a big boy, and he's got so much love for his children, and he's a good father. Like he's still parenting from his cell. Like he's helping his children through situations, or if they need to know something or learn something. He is in their corner, even from the remand. But you feel it because he's shed some tears, and you feel it. He's got a good circle of friends. He's got a good family, but you do feel it through him, and we need to be there for him.
Absolutely, absolutely. And my first call with him is what really shook my world there, Gord. Chris Carbert's awesome to talk to. Tony's wonderful. Jerry is fun. All right, get ready for this J-Dog and this other stuff. He's fun. But Chris
there's an update. If I may interrupt, one of the things that Margaret has focused on in so far as the men's poor treatment, I think you mentioned that Tony's was in a gang unit in Calgary. He called me from Medicine Hat. They moved him. So that's some good news.
Maybe. Yeah, Granny will say whether. Yeah.
It is good news. He gets better food there. Yeah, it is good. It's great news.
An upgrade, as it were. And I see
when it comes to remand.
Yeah, I see my Auntie Kate's in the chat. Oh, good morning.
Hi, Auntie Kate.
Yes. Hi, Auntie Kate. And now I'd like to introduce Mel. So Mel is somebody who reached out to us, said, hey, look, I like what you're doing. I'm impressed that you guys are getting this message out so well. And how can I help was kind of the message I got. So we chatted a little bit more. And it turns out that not only is she a freelance journalist, she used to be a legacy journalist. So she saw, the world change. It used to be good. Now it's like this. And then we were chatting about empowering people to go ahead and pick up the pen or the keyboard and start doing journalists as well. So good morning, Mel. How are you doing? And you want to introduce yourself?
Good morning. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound fine.
Okay, great. I'm just absolutely blown away and thrilled with what a grassroots movement that you've got. And it's just, I've been following along such as I can get information in this particular case. And it's just kind of what I live and breathe these last 2 years is sort of citizen journalism, as you aptly named it, Jason. Yeah.
And then you came from the legacy journalism.
Yeah, I have a traditional journalism degree. It used to be a noble profession. I still think it can be when used properly. And I used to be a beat reporter at daily newspaper and did that for years. And then I kind of moved into other things in the communications world, but I always continued to freelance. Longer magazine type pieces of all sorts of stuff. I liked a lot of feature writing and really liked to tell the stories once I got to know the people or the issue. And then over COVID, my world just blew up. I think legacy media really exposed themselves, and took me longer to get that through my head than it did to figure out that COVID was maybe not what everyone thought it was. And so once it took the truckers, it took Chris Barber actually to expose that to me and said, Mal, like over the convoy, just give it up. So I kind of moved on and been doing my own thing rather than trying to provide information and facts to legacy media reporters that I knew or institutions I used to work with to give them the facts, and they just wouldn't run with it. So that was my big black pill, I suppose.
Okay, and what we chatted a bit briefly about was maybe doing a story or covering the citizen journalism portion of this story. So we're covering the men and we're doing all of that, but maybe there's a story there about what we're doing as an effort to encourage other people to do this kind of thing. You think there may be a story there?
Yeah, I actually thought that was just a really great idea when we were talking yesterday. Just empowering others that you don't need to be credentialed to get the story out. And I think just every day the fissures get larger, that mainstream media is not trustworthy anymore. And so I think that not only is it switched so that people are now really moving towards independent journalism, citizen journalism, but people can just pick up a mic, pick up a pen and cover it. And if we all do it and all do our part, it can be really powerful.
It's a great way to educate our neighbors and get the information out. Now, Gord, you're not accredited, are you? Are you government approved?
Yeah, the only thing the government's ever approved me for has been my CDL, my truck license.
For now.
For now, yeah. As I mentioned on the first appearance you guys had me, I kind of fell into this after going to Ottawa and seeing what was happening. And like I say, I have done some very minor bits of writing here and there, focused mostly on, the trucking business. And when I came back from Ottawa, seeing the mainstream media, the regime media, as I like to put it, Cathedral Nord, they, they just immediately started into this, psychological terror campaign to, put the fear into everybody of these evil truck drivers, which was the furthest thing from the truth. And I guess because a few people in the American media were familiar with my work on trucking, like some sort of labor type folks, people started asking me to write on the convoy, and I did. And I got into Newsweek, and I've developed a really good relationship with my editor at Newsweek, this lady named Batya Unger Sargon. And she's very, very interested in, correcting injustice, as it were. And, she's probably, now that she's been speaking with me, and I think she's like snuck a peek at a few of your shows, she's probably one of the most informed of the American media about the Coutts situation out of anybody south of the border. And,
that's wonderful.
Yeah, and she wants me to do another one, so I'm gonna keep working away at that.
So yeah, you're working on another article for Newsweek, and what is it going to be the subject for that one? Are you doing an update, or are you going to a different direction about the men?
I'm not 100% sure, but yes, in general, it will be both an update, probably on the proceedings from last week, and a sort of human story. Like I'm speaking with all the men, and I'm going to try and like give a face. Like people have all seen their photos. Everyone knows their name. They've heard people talk about them, but not from them. As I understand it, like I say, I'm not a journalist. I don't even consider myself a citizen journalist. I write occasionally, and I fell into this. But if I end up being, a conduit to the media to get these guys' voices out, like I'm happy to do it.
Mm-hmm. I know that feeling because I'd rather be.
I mean, that's what you're doing. I mean, you've been doing the Lord's work here. You and Margaret and Donald, like you guys, tip my hat to you. Someone has to speak up on this.
Right. We have to get their information out, not just correcting the record, correcting the facts, and getting out new information. It's also about telling who they are, because, like you said, they're just a picture to most people right now, and the story that they heard about how evil they are. But you just spent one of those 20-minute phone calls with them, and you're like, this is not what they said that was. Okay, so Granny, I'm going to come to you next. So the goal here is a call to action in media, and we're going to put them together. So one of the calls to action is to go get information out. And let's go ahead and talk a bit about, first, you want to write to the men, write to the system, and then write to media. Those are the kind of the three call to actions here.
Yeah, there's a few things going on. Obviously, the men are having some health issues, and it's not just Tony. We've got Tony, Jerry, and Chris dealing with some health issues. I think Chris Carbert's doing pretty good right now, but he did tell me the worst part of the remand, if you can believe it, is Alberta Health Services. A lot of people out there within these offices that have been spoke to already are saying we're lying, that we're not credible, that we're just, and they're getting many of these phone calls, and we're all conspiracy theorists, and that Alberta Health Services would never serve bad food, that Alberta Services would never deny somebody access to health. So we're up against something here. So I do ask that everybody does call the health minister. I don't know how to pronounce her name. I honestly, Andrea, can you say it, Jason?
Lagrange.
Lagrange?
So Lagrange, yeah, that'd be a French name.
Yeah. So anyhow, I do ask everybody call and bring up the health concerns. I will make a post on the Alberta Political Prisoners page. And then secondly, like there are so many things. It's hard to figure out what direction you want to go. I'm more about the guys, obviously. Yes, there's a whole court system thing going on here, but we got to talk about the men's mental health and physical health. They're not allowed to go outside. They're caught in a system where it's supposed to cycle in, cycle out. They're like, it's like purgatory. They're
Right.
stuck in a system where they're not allowed to go outside into the real world of grass or a tree or play horseshoe pit. They're not allowed that. They have to stay in this area, and it's definitely not normal for 535 days. So I'm asking that you call the justice minister and ask who put these rules in place that you cannot go outside and have fresh air and sit on the grass or throw a horseshoe, but you can be incarcerated, guilty, and you've got all these privileges. So we need to find out where this system kind of broke and why the door won't open for them to go outside. This isn't healthy, mentally or physically. So we've got a couple things going on here. And then everybody's going to say it again. Danielle Smith is the boss of this province. Everybody keeps saying she doesn't have power. And I'm going, oh my gosh, please, everyone, give your head a shake. She is the premier of Alberta. We're not asking her to interfere in anything to do with the case. We are asking her to uphold justice for them to get outside and sit on the grass. We're asking her to uphold healthcare. It's nothing to do with law. It's everything to do with human behavior. Just help these men get some fresh air. And there's not just the four of them. There's going to be many that need outside and need healthcare and etc. So 1, please write the justice minister, and 2, write the health minister, and 3, write Danielle Smith. Now, they've got phones. They've got email addresses. You can write a letter and do it snail mail. Please do all 3 and stay consistent and stay persistent. Keep doing this until they speak up. This takes work. So please share, do your part and help these men, and the rest hopefully will fall into place.
Absolutely. So these are the letters and comments that you want to have sent to the ministers. So I'm going to ask everybody to remember to be polite and respectful.
Yes.
If you do anything other than that, not only is it going to be ignored, you can actually cause issues. If it's nothing but hate mail coming, you're going to drown out the good messages. So kindly, please, treat it like you're talking to your grandmother that you love, not the one you don't like, but the one that you love. Send it like that. Be polite, be respectful. You say you're honorable instead of any other 4-letter anything, because the whole purpose here is to communicate the message, not to show your frustration. I think the act of sending the letter itself is you're showing a frustration, so go ahead and do that part, but have some respect there, because we are trying to get assistance, not trying to make someone feel upset.
And again, Jason, we talked about being uncomfortable. The topic with Tony is uncomfortable. This poor man is having his whole life exposed. You think he wants to talk about that he can't go to the washroom? Like, that is not a topic any man or woman wants to have conversation about, but this is the fact. Like, he had not gone to the washroom for 10 days. 10 days, and nobody will help him. And the man on the other end of the phone says, that's not true. Nobody doesn't go to the bathroom for 10 days. It's not his job to pick apart if Tony's gone to the washroom or not. But he needs help, because not going to the washroom for 10 days is going to make him terribly sick all on its own. That's not even talking about his SIBO. That's not even talking about the other things that are going on. But his body is reacting to what's going on. And this man has given us permission to talk about his story. And that's a personal story. Mm-hmm. So, everybody, imagine if that was you. This is hard. And for him to bring that out publicly, he needs help. Otherwise, he wouldn't do it. So please help him.
Please do. Yeah, absolutely. And here we go. We're going to put the addresses up here. Now, these are in the descriptions as well. So if you go to the description of Rumble and YouTube, and it'll be on Facebook as well, you can get this. But here's the information for those that want to screen capture, pause. You can pause the video right now and go ahead and grab that, or pause it later. But that's the contact information for the Minister of Justice and the Minister of Health. Again, respectful only. You can fax, email, and phone, and then send a letter as well. So there's actually 4 ways to contact them. So please go ahead and go back to the video, pause this, and write them a letter, or find it in the description as well. Alrighty. So Granny, thank you for that. I can feel the passion for sure, because it's there. There's actual resistance to getting them help. There's now people writing in telling them, don't listen to these people. They don't know what they're talking about. So we actually have some weird things going on that we need to fight, Granny. So I am very empathetic to the passion that you have there, because it's true. And it's weird. All right. So Donald, you've been kicking some butt, going on a bunch of stuff. You're on another show coming up. I think you mentioned that you might be on the same show a few times. Now what I'm going to get into is the citizen journalist part of this, because the more we get this message out, including what Granny just said there, the better. So for example, if you're on Twitter, somebody's posting about the men, maybe they're just blasé about it. You're like, hey, don't forget about Tony and his health. You can write to the minister. That would be a way that people can help. Go ahead and put a post out there, let people know. Create your own tweet, start your own thing. The reason why I'm going to you on this one, Donald, is because that's what you did. You got interested into the story and you made an article and wrote an article, and that really opened up the door for us. So why don't you go ahead and encourage some people who are thinking about writing an article to go ahead and do it, and kind of how you went about your research, and then how you went about creating your article.
Well, first of all, I'm not really a journalist. I'm just a hack. I have no professional experience. Okay, I used to be a police detective. That means I look for evidence, and that's good, because I can present things that are fact-based and not just opinion. And when I give an opinion, maybe it's a professional opinion. But the important thing here is I didn't know these men were in prison. I didn't know they didn't make bail. When you came to me, Jason, after Granny came to you, almost 500 days into it, I had no idea, and I was shocked. Now, why didn't I have any idea about that? Why didn't I know about their health? Why didn't I know about the problems with the case? Simple. The mainstream media is just not reporting it. So we have to break through there. We have to do tweets. We have to go on shows if we can. Find out what materials are out there. There's my article. There's a couple of broadcasts that we've done that are really good. And one person, I forget his name. Island
Jason.
Yes, he does a great job.
He's wonderful.
He takes clips that are 4 or 5 minutes long, and he just puts them out there, and it's just wonderful. What I'm saying is, we need, first of all, to make Canadians aware of the injustice of this whole situation. But now that we have men, one of them, actually 2, I think, in serious medical trouble, we need to focus on that. Now, for the people who don't know, I spent 63 days in solitary confinement. I was sentenced. Okay, I've been vindicated since then, but I did 63 days in prison, every day in solitary confinement, because that was the only place that could keep me alive. I became very ill, very ill because I couldn't get my prescription drugs and such. And you know, they treated me a little differently. One, because I'm an ex-copper and I operate at a higher level, maybe. But the other thing is they knew I was a citizen journalist. And I'm not saying they're not compassionate, and I'm not saying that they don't look after people who are seriously ill. Maybe they wait too long. But for me, they gave me great service. Why? Because I would tell people, I would reveal, I would expose. I'm a person who had the mechanism to do that. I had a YouTube channel. I wrote articles. I had written for the Globe and Mail. Okay. What we need to do for the Coutts Four right now is to focus on this health issue. And I can tell you, I'm going to write an article. I think we should do a show, more shows about it, and we should just continue to write about it and write the authorities, write the media, both the independent and the mainstream. That's something they can cover. Okay, whether they're afraid of this case or not, whether they bought the narrative, they can look at the fact that we have two men who are very, very ill, and they're not getting the medical treatment that any citizen, any person deserves.
100%, Donald. And what you just said there should be clipped. So now let me just show quickly how people can do that. So I'm going to take us to Rumble quickly here. Here's Rumble. So here's Donald talking just now. So if you want to get the message out about the health concern that he just spoke about, what you can do is you can find a spot in the video. Say it's right there. Well, that's me. But there's Donald talking. You can go down to the share button. You can click this little start at, copy this one, and then share that link everywhere, guys, because this is what's going to cause the people to go to that part of the clip. So this is an excellent way to make a quick clip without having to get the video and copy it and re-encode it and that kind of stuff. And here's how you do it on Twitter, on YouTube. Very, very similar. You go to share. Let me go to a spot. I don't know if you can do it with a live video. Let me go to a non-live video because it's really the same thing where you can click the time code. So let me go to a non-live video. There we go. Share. And you can say start at, copy that link, and tweet that everywhere, everybody. Now, YouTube has another option which you can make clips of. I don't know if I can do it on this video. There we go.
You can actually, some people in the media are the
you can actually make a clip. So you can make up to a minute or so. And this is what Jason Island has been doing a lot of. He's been making these clips. So those are two ways for you to use Rumble or YouTube to go ahead and share. And this is a good way to get that information out. So if you like what Donald just said right there, go ahead and click that or make a time code link to it and then share that link out. So hopefully that helps you out on that as well. And then Facebook, I think they have similar things, Granny. I'm not sure if Facebook has time codes, but you can certainly share the videos on Facebook.
Yeah, this just blew over top of my head. Like I'm going, oh, I'm going to tell my daughter about it. She's the one that does the reels.
Yeah. Well, you can clip the clipping part. So clip that part of the video with clipping. You clip it to the clips and then send it out. Yeah,
even I think I can figure that one out. So I'm all over that. I like the timestamp one where it starts the video there. I can manage that instead of screen recording, which is painful. So this is great. And this is great advice. If I can do it, anyone can do it. So please at least try. What does it hurt? Try, but continue to hit the share button.
Yeah, and if you just do one clip of your favorite part of that episode and you do that once a day and you all do that, this will hit every corner of the globe in a week. Everybody will know about it. So if everybody could do that, that'd be wonderful. So Mel, I'm going to come back to you. You do have a bit of a scratchy audio, but it's workable. We're okay with that. We can hear you. But can you maybe talk to us about how you plan to take this forward and how you would encourage someone else to pick up a pen or hit the keyboard and just start telling the story? Oh, sorry, we'll unmute you. Go ahead, Mel.
Okay. What I guess I always just think multi-pronged approach. I mean, from speaking to freedom groups, empowering freedom groups, giving them the information, to absolutely to tweeting it, to any social media is kind of the way that I see getting any of this information out, just to try and blanket the entire any option, any thoughts that or connections that a person has if they're overseas, especially. I think you got to, family in Texas, get the information, get the facts, and get them to them and say to share, because there is so much power in that. And to writing an article, if you have opportunity to do that. I really liked hearing that Donald had written that article, and just do it. If you've got the facts, you've got the information, then just do whatever you can do. Like, I literally would find people that I trust, be the independent journalists or whatever. I would make connection with them, and I would just get the stories out. From these last 2 years, it's been about COVID. If it's about efficacy of masks or non-efficacy, then I just send it anywhere I can. And eventually you develop a rapport, you develop relationships, you develop traction. And it doesn't happen overnight, but it happens. And I just want to empower people that you don't have to have a certain pedigree or a ton of hours. Just if you're led to do it, step up and do it. And it just gets easier and easier every time. And yeah, I guess that would be a start.
Absolutely, and that's a great way to start. So what I like there is you also can find groups that you're in, or groups that may have like-minded or people that even need to know about this. Get in there. You can chat about it. You can talk about it. You can get into with the messaging. And if you're on Telegram and Signal and all those other ones, you can bring the Facebook and YouTube and Rumble stuff there so people can find it as well. We're not necessarily on every platform with our videos, but you can bring links to those platforms as well.
And if I can just add just to that, like, yeah, I used to we were talking yesterday, and I hate to use the word troll, but I would just kind of comb, maybe that's a little less loaded. I would comb websites, any groups that I could find. I would just enter a search name. Like, who do I know down east? I'm in Saskatchewan. And I would just enter freedom groups, and I would come across them, and I would just join the groups. Most of them, they're pretty open to joining. They ask you just a few questions. And then I started getting information that would help me on what they're dealing with. This was a lot of information. I had my own little notepad kind of thing, a virtual notepad, and I would clip links and send it to them and share what's happening. And it's just amazing because they'll come back to you, and I'm still in touch with these people, and it's become a kind of a symbiotic relationship across the country, right to Newfoundland. I would just find these people. And so as long as if you have a passion and you're somewhat industrious, you can take it to whatever level that you want, because I think especially in this time where Canada, unless a person really has their head into the ground, people know Canada, this is not the Canada that it was even 3 years ago. And so people are fed up, and they want their Canada back. And this is a way we can take our Canada back. And I guess one last thing, if I could just add, that I really am finding is it's peeling away the layers. So as more and more information is being shared, be it in freedom groups, Telegram groups, in person, it's creating a conversation. So I have a little bit of information about just the soundbite. These guys have been in jail for 530 days. I bump into my neighbor and I say, do you know what? I just read this article, just heard this. There's citizen journalism right there, a conversation. We could take it to whatever level that we want to. So I just empower people to consider all the options.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And what I'm going to direct people to now is because what you're talking about there is great. So get into the comment sections even. Like, if you see an article that may have some misinformation or incorrect information, jump into the comment and say, hey, though it's not body armor, that's legal vests. Like, for example, like that. Like, people are out there still calling that body armor when we actually already know it's a legal vest. Little details like that do help, because it will also start the conversation. Like, what do you mean by legal vest? Well, in Alberta, you can have that without plates. Oh, I didn't know that. This is a good way to also help people understand what's going on here.
Absolutely.
What I'm also going to, yeah, so what I'm going to do, I got to mute you as we being between talks, so I apologize for that. What I'm going to do now is to bring everybody's attention to the Alberta Political Prisoners Facebook page. This is a really great resource. If you're not in here yet, you should be. And this is run by Granny, and I believe a couple of people might help you just to make sure the information is good, but Granny's got a great page here. Oh, we know those people. There's a live feed of the video itself. People are sharing their lawn signs, which is a great way to get the information out. But in here, Granny has the posting that has, there we go. You want to look for one of these. So this, if you want to pause the video as well, is how you can write to the men. So you need their name, you need their inmate number. Locked up human, I hate that name, inmate. I know Granny doesn't like it either. And Tony is back in Medicine Hat, is that right? Okay, so this is all accurate again. Ditto with Calgary, and then Chris and Chris are in Lethbridge. So here's how you can write.
Jerry yet. Jerry's still in Lethbridge. We're assuming he will be moved back to Calgary. He's requested it. So Jerry's still stuck. He got put back in segregation. He's back into 22 hours a day in a cell right now. Pray that he gets back. I pray he gets back to a gang unit. It sounds so
That's
insane.
Weird. Yeah, he's comfortable there. He knows it now.
Yeah, he says, my friends. Like,
yeah. That's wild. Massive. So what does happen if someone sent it to Calgary right now? Would they hold it or send it back?
The letter will follow his inmate number. So okay. I would send it to Calgary. Hopefully he goes back today or tomorrow. But the inmate number will find his inmate number wherever he's at.
Right. Now there's a question here. Can they receive gifts? I think the answer is no, right?
No. And you have to have a return address. Some people don't want to put their return address on the letter. It won't make it to them. You have to have a return address.
And we're going to ask you to put it on the outside and in the letter. So put your return address on twice, on the outside so it can get through and maybe torn off, but also in the letter if well, they want to write you back. So please put it in the letter. Chris was very adamant that he wants to write back. So please put it in the letter. Anything else you want to mention about writing to them? What kind of paper to use? Pen?
Yeah. And I say this repetitively. No decals or no stickers, no labels, white paper, white envelope, blue or black ink. It cannot be a gel pen. Like my grandsons are drawing pictures for the men right now, and they're using a black pen. So you have to make sure that now, again, Tony and Jerry with Medicine Hat in Calgary will actually get cards through. Chris being in Lethbridge is much stricter. They've had hundreds of cards only make it there and go home with their parents because they'll have them released. So don't get discouraged. The cards that you've mailed have reached them, but won't be seen by them until they're released from the remands. But they didn't destroy them. They're there because the moms and the dads have taken them home.
So the best advice to make sure it gets through: white paper, black blue pen, no gel. Envelope has to have the return address inside the letter, preferably the return address so they can write to you. And that's your best chance to get it through.
Yes.
Now, do they read the content of it? So is there anything that you can put in the content that would get you blocked by the review?
You know, I haven't heard of anything that has been refused. I haven't heard that. As far as I know, everything's getting through. Some people think if they talk politically or if they talk this, I have not heard anything being rejected from the content. I do say, try to keep it uplifting and upbeat. These men are going through a hard time. So talk about your community, talk about a school board meeting, just kind of give them the news because all they have is CBC Global and CTV. So that's their news. And I have to say, happily, they got the Newsweek article on the iPad that they get to look at. So that was a bonus for them to actually read print that it was a positive light spun on them. That was extremely uplifting. So, and I copy and paste as much as I can into the apps for them to read.
Yeah, so thank you, Gord. So here's your article here. And another thing people can do is they can take this article, take the link, and share that everywhere as well. Maybe you don't want to type out the whole, this is the story, and here's where it is. Well, share this article. You can share the article. Now, Gord, I don't know. I'll ask you right now. Do you encourage people to maybe copy and paste a paragraph that has information and drop it in somewhere, as long as maybe they source you? Like, what would be a good way to do that?
Yeah, no, by all means, spread it around. Take pull quotes, share it on your own social media. The more, the merrier. Attribution is nice, but it's not necessary. Again, I hate having to come back to this, but it's so interesting that a pile of people in Canada started paying attention to this again after an American magazine decided to highlight a problem in Canada's backyard, but never mind. Just send it to ever. And you mentioned, writing letters to Alberta Health, to relevant ministers, maybe your own member of parliament. Send the Newsweek article to them. That'll shame them. If you're a member of parliament and you don't know anything about the Coutts Four, and you find out about it from my Newsweek article, and then you go and search CBC or CTV and Global and discover there's nothing there, that might throw some light bulbs off in some heads. Maybe, it's worth a try.
Absolutely. And you even have a Substack now. So I'm going to pull that up. Well, you've always had one, but now you actually have the political prisoners on here as well. Yeah,
so typically when I write something and have it published elsewhere, I'll share it on my Substack and then add a little extra stuff, typically publications have like they have word counts and stylistic and aesthetic, parameters. And then if I feel like I need to add anything, I'll throw it on the Substack. I'll probably do that with the next one I write. Who is this fella? Propaganda in Focus? Was it Ray McGinnis? I think he was on your show recently. Yeah. So that article Ray did was great. That's the kind of like deep dive I would have liked to have done. And congratulations and thank you to Ray for writing that. I'm probably going to cite that in my next piece I'm going to put on Substack, because that was fantastic. And share that one. That's a real good deep dive. Provides more context, more detail about the RCMP and other issues going on in the background. And just share, and just keep talking about it. And like I say, write your MP, write your local radio station. Write the CBC, shame the bastards. Like, this is a problem in Canada. Something I mentioned in my Substack add-on to the Newsweek article, and I'm sure most people listening to this will remember the Omar Khadr story. That young Afghan kid, his dad sent him back to Afghanistan, hurt terribly in a firefight with the Americans, accused of, throwing the grenade that killed an American medic. Whatever you think of that story is irrelevant. The point is, we heard about it for years. The CBC talked about Omar Khadr non-stop. Everybody in the country knew about Omar Khadr and the fact that he got sent to Guantanamo Bay, and the whole country was in an uproar about it. Okay, how come we're not doing that for the Coutts Four, who are being kept in what amounts to Guantanamo Bay-like conditions, being denied medical care, solitary confinement are forms of torture? I think Guantanamo Bay is an apt comparison. Why is that happening in Canada? How come nobody's talking about it? We heard about nothing but Omar Khadr for 10 years while he was in Gitmo, and then in the aftermath of it, and then the court ruling. Why not the Coutts Four? Right?
It's not politically good for them.
I know it isn't, but like, we have to make this comparison, and we have to shame them. Shame the bastards. Ask the questions.
I love your energy. Absolutely. Shame the bastards. Let's ask the questions, because why aren't they? And I got to let you know, I've reached out to MPs and they're ghosting. Conservative MPs from Alberta. They're ghosting.
I want to know, like, okay, so we exist on the periphery of what you might call sort of dissident media, citizen journalism, hanging out on places like Rumble. And then there's other people, and there's like sort of layers to the media onion. As you get further towards the middle, you get to guys like Jordan Peterson, maybe Rex Murphy. Like, has Jordan Peterson said anything about the Coutts Four? The man
Nope.
has done nothing but rail on about Alexander Solzhenitsyn and the gulags and how the Russian state devolved into this authoritarian tyranny. And he has the same situation developing in his backyard. Where is Jordan Peterson? Where is Rex Murphy? Like, Rex Murphy should be all over this, because like Rex is like nominally about freedom of speech, nominally about justice, nominally about, norms of procedure. He clearly doesn't like Trudeau. How come Rex Murphy has, so like in addition to write your MPs, write Alberta Health Services, talk to everybody, like we should be carpet bombing Peterson. Like, Peterson should be on this. This is a Gulag Archipelago case in Canada right now. He's always going on about how Canada needs to be fixed and you have to stand up and say something. Where the F is Jordan Peterson? Pardon my rant.
No worries. I'll touch on Jordan Peterson one. So for months, I've been trying to reach him. I do know people who've booked him, had him around live events, so they have contact with his people. He's AWOL on this issue. Rex, I haven't been able to reach him. He doesn't have open Twitter. So Rex Murphy, if you're out there, anybody who knows it, try and connect us. I can't say I've gotten connected in any way, shape, or form with him yet. I don't think he knows it. Maybe that's the issue. But Peterson, I'm going to call him out. He's Alberta. He's always fighting against the government, but for some reason, he's very, very quiet on this issue. And Viva Frei was until we reached out and got connected with him. And that was through a Twitter campaign. I didn't call him out. I asked him for help, and lots of people helped. And that's another way that people can help. When you see us, like Granny or Donald, put a call to action out, like Granny says, hey, get this message out, do that. Pay attention to what Granny's putting out, and then blast that everywhere. That's how we got Viva Frei. And because of Viva Frei, he was now in Tim Pool. Because of Tim Pool, there's about 500,000 people who've seen that episode now. So this is a good way to do that. I do want to bring up Ray's article here, but I also want to bring up a problem that we ran into. So let me add this to the stream. Twitter is censoring his article. So, and it happened quick. Like, he just put it up on this website, and he sent me the link, and immediately Twitter was censoring it. For those who were in the know, this is what they did for the Hunter Biden laptop. They made it difficult to share, and they made warnings about it. Now, you can click continue to continue, but look, guys, already this particular narrative is being censored, even on Twitter. It is an amazing article, as Gord said, and if you read it, it's quite long. It's like 8,000 words. But this really laid out the POEC, the convoy, the Emergency Act, the Coutts situation. So this is a wonderful story. And I received a message yesterday from a gentleman who's blind in BC who said, thank you so much for getting Lindsay Butler to voice record this. So she's going to narrate this. She's working on it right now. She got the links yesterday. She got the instructions yesterday and the permission. So she's going to voice narrate this, and we'll get this out. And Gord, I passed your article to, who was it? Greg Arcade. So I asked Greg Arcade to do the same thing with your article. Is that fine with you?
No, that's fantastic. I don't know a whole lot about Mr. Arcade. I've heard him he's referenced quite a bit on Jeremy McKenzie's show, but he sounds like a good guy. And yeah, like I say, if anybody wants to share it, re-record it, go. Send it out there. Full blast.
So, turn it into a country song or whatever. Let's get that article out there.
Like I say, well, this is how you get the message out. And like, I'm not going to get in the way of any of that for like any reason. Like, yeah, whoever wants to voice record it, talk about it on their podcast, repeat it verbatim, word for word, go for it.
Yeah, we'll find out what rhymed with Gord Magill. Gord Magill, what rhymes? Up the hill, up the hill. I don't know, we'll get there. We'll make a country song out of this one. Okay, so Donald, another way to do it is to get on podcast, become a guest on podcast, make your own podcast, and get stuff out there. You're on this one, which is wonderful. You're talking about maybe making your own, but you're also out there doing the rounds on a whole bunch of other ones. So I'm going to make a call out to anybody with podcasts. If you want Donald or Granny or myself to appear, just reach out. We're happy to give you 5-10 minutes, even up to an hour or so. And I think you were even a couple hours last night there, Donald. So why don't you go ahead and tell people? Yeah, why don't you go ahead and tell people to reach out to you and let them know that, yeah, you are willing to sit down and talk.
Absolutely. And Look, I want to say what I say basically every show. I don't know that each one of these men is innocent of each one of the charges. And there are some minor charges there relatively. But I do know, and if you read my article at donaldbest.ca, these men are political prisoners. The investigation was political. The search warrant executions, the staging of the evidence, the improper and unprofessional handling of exhibits was political. They wanted a photo so badly to use as an illustration why the Emergencies Act should be invoked that they disregarded every possible procedure about professional evidence handling because they needed that propaganda photo. And then we have the fact that everybody makes bail in Canada. We have an actual accused cop killer out on bail in Toronto. So all of this, it's just all political. And once we start telling people about that, they listen, they understand. So, if you have a podcast, if you're a journalist or you're a citizen journalist, I'd be happy to talk with you and tell you how I made my journey from when I first saw that photo. And that really spooked me. That was on February 14th, 2022, the day they invoked the Emergencies Act. I saw the press conference, I saw the photo, and I said, these guys are terrorists. Lock them up and throw away the key. And it took me from then until 500 days later, when I heard they were still in jail and I had a look at it, and you can see that I've come a long way. These are political prisoners, and they deserve justice. They deserve a trial. The trial was going to start, June 12th, just a few weeks ago. And a few hours before the trial, the Crown dumped 3,000 pages of evidence that they had withheld. That was malicious. It was strategic. It was done so to disturb the defense because they knew they wouldn't be able to go ahead with it. And this is some 500 plus days after these people were arrested, and they've been in jail ever since. This is all political, and we have to get the word out there so that these men can have justice. And Canadians deserve to know the truth about this. And these men deserve their day in court. And now it looks like it won't be until next summer, a year from now.
Yes, another year, buddy. Now, Mel, you got your pen ready? You got your keyboard ready? Can we expect an article out of you soon? What's your plan? I think you're muted on your side, Mel. Give it another second. And we'll come back to you, Mel. So as soon as I hear you, I'll bring you back. Do we have you back yet? No. Okay. So Gord, so you're working on an article right now. You're talking to two of the men. The other two are going to reach out to you. I know Chris Lysick, I spoke to him yesterday. He was a little standoffish because media hasn't been the best to his family. Maybe Granny can quickly let us know what happened there with Chris's family, why they're standoffish on the media. And then you'll understand, Gord, why there needs to be kind of a trust step there that has to be created.
Yeah, it was a little traumatic for Chris's dad and one of his daughters. I'm not sure which media. I would have to get the details of it.
Global TV.
Was it? Okay.
I believe so.
And they literally came through the door. Like she's 11 at the time. And they literally pushed their way through the door and came at her and was asking her questions. And then they took Mike's words. They'd ask him something and they would just twist it to make him sound like, his son was crazy and a whole bunch of other words. But it was very traumatic. Mike, after that, knew that the media was not their friend. He didn't know that prior. And so he is nervous about talking with anyone. And he's slowly coming around. He wants the truth out, what he said. So Gord, I do feel that he would talk with you. I'll talk to Chris today. He just wants the truth out, what happened to his family that day, you know, how they came after his daughter and how they came after his dad.
I hadn't even heard that part, and I'm eager to listen to it. And much like yourself, I'm just interested in the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't have an axe to grind here. I mean, other than, you know, Trudeau, but don't we all? But like,
that's called accountability.
Yeah, well, when we exist in a media ecosystem like we do now, where they either lie about things or they do it through omission by not speaking about it, you know, and I'm not interested in going to Mr. Lizak's house or hassling his family. I mean, if he calls me, he calls me. Sweet. I'll have a little chat with him, get some things written down, and that'll be part of it. I'm not interested in trying to smear anybody. I just want to hear their side of things. You know, I've already heard, everybody's already heard the smears from the government. It's time these guys had their chance to tell their side, because nobody's asked them, right?
Mm-hmm. That's 100%. And because of that issue with the CBC coming out with a narrative like day of, and then we had Global, which quite literally walked past a young girl to get to the man, talked to him, screwed it up, gave him PTSD, gave him anxiety, and really caused problems. Then we also have another media, we won't mention their names because they're very litigious, trying to get another narrative confirmed by family members at the court that's not even a true narrative. So they're still attempting to create that and hold up that narrative. And then we have another news agency, Alt, we won't mention their name, but a little bit framing of the questions and basically threatening us that they won't work with us unless we give them unfettered access directly to the men. However, the way they were asking questions already is clear. They're trying to nail the men, not support the men, which is weird. So Gord, not everybody got access like you. So you, David, Freiheit got it. Ray McGinnis got it. I got it. So it's a bit of a privilege that the family has allowed that kind of access to the men, because we're rebuilding that media trust. So we're going to work hard on keeping that media trust up there, because these men's stories need to come out from more than just one source. So thank you very much for taking on that. I'm going to call it a privilege, because it is a privilege to be able to speak to this gentleman.
It is 100% a privilege. And again, I'm honored and humbled by all this. Like I say, I kind of stumbled into it, and I'm just, you know, I'm like, much like yourselves, I'm very worried about what's going on with Canada. Every time I come back, it seems like more and more crazy. You know, I've had my own family issues since COVID and the Freedom Convoy, and like, just the truth about what's gone on at home just needs to be told. And part of that is having conversations with the gentlemen who are in remand. I have a separate question about, you said you couldn't send gifts. Are books considered gifts? I'd like to send the boys some books. Is that not possible?
I tried that as well. No, the only way they get books is through the library that's at the remand. So you have to already be in that library. I don't know how you get in the library. I'm sure there's a process that we can't quickly get through. I have a book as well that I wanted to get to them as a gift. Like, I wrote a book and I wanted them, and it's not about anything bad. It's about being a witness in society. But no, I can't get that to them. Granny, am I wrong about that? Because I was talking to Lysick yesterday about just trying to get that book to him, and he said only through the library.
Yeah, only through the library. You can put a request out, I think, because I'm not sure which one it was. It was one of the Chris's asked for 1984, and and they got it.
Did they really?
Yes.
Good stuff.
So, like I said, they can put the request out, and maybe that's how it gets in. I don't know, but there are good people in that system. Remember, so you know it's a definite no if you don't ask. So I think they need to ask, and maybe that's how it gets into the system. So they should put a request out for it, and who knows, it might show up.
Okay, so maybe I'll send my book there. Gord, you can tell them the title of the book. Maybe they can ask for it by name when you speak to them. That might be a good way to get that book there. What book is it, so that we can maybe pick it up?
I have a suggestions just for a few. just some pieces of literature to, again, going back to Peterson, he's always talking about great books. Read old good books, and there's a couple of old good books that like speak to the nature of what's going on here. One of them is called The Trial by a guy named Franz Kafka. I used this in the Newsweek article and a few other. Yeah, Kafkaesque. Kafkaesque as a term comes from this book called The Trial, where this guy gets arrested. Nobody tells him what he's being charged with. No information, shunted around different places, like, psyoped and gaslit. And, this book is like a fundamental piece of literature from the 20th century about like the excesses of the state, the corruption of justice systems, just what it means to get tangled up, like when the government comes after you. And that's where the term came from. It's now part of the English lexicon. Franz Kafka was this Czech guy who was writing around World War I. Another book I want the men and everybody to read is The Plague by Albert Camus, French philosopher. He was part of the French resistance. He wrote an underground French resistance newspaper during Nazi occupation. And this book, The Plague, it's nominally an analogy about the Nazi occupation of France and how people just kind of rolled over and let it happen. And, the sort of problems with being a human confronted with situations like this. And I think, lots of people have said it has analogies with like COVID and whatnot. And, I just think it's a good thing to read. And a few people in the chat have mentioned, like what we're up against as far as the government, deep state, the parties being corrupt. There's an American writer who's, I think he's dead now. His name was James Burnham. He wrote The Machiavellians and another book in the 1940s called The Managerial Revolution, which describes how democracies have now been subverted to a sort of caste of credentialed professionals, managers, the bureaucracies that like are basically like dug into the government and you can't get rid of them. And like he wrote this 80 years ago, and it perfectly describes where most of Western civilization is at with regards to the relationship between our, the rulers and the ruled, and what the problem is with the rulers, because there's not democracy while there's unelected bureaucrats and this caste of people who like technocrats that just think they can tell everybody what to do. And I think everybody should read those 3 books just to like get where we're at like today with what's going on.
Oh, we got our homework list now, because that sounds like a great set of books, a trifecta of truth there. And we'll understand the situation a bit more. Thank you for that. And maybe we'll bring you back in the near future to talk specifically about one of them, and we'll break it down or something for the people. That might be a good way to get that information as well. Not a lot of people read all the books, but they will if the recommendation's high enough. And I'm sure there might be audio versions of those books. So we'll take a look for that as well. So, Granny, do you want to give any last messages to everybody about call to action and reporting this out there as citizen journalists?
Yes, Donald just wrote in the chat, but what can I do? I am just one person, said 7 billion people. There's the power. The power's there, and you're it. You don't think you are because you're just somebody sitting out in, say, Lamont. But you count, and these men count, and you can be a voice for them. So do not underestimate your power. Like I said, I always go back to Auntie Kate. Gord wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for Auntie Kate. So like I said, Auntie Kate's a grandma, I'm a grandma, and we started chatting and visiting, and look what's come out of it. A fabulous Newsweek article, and now Gord's friends with 2 of the men already, and you do become friends with these men. So please do your part. Just step up, make a phone call, send an email, hit a share button, and if you continuously do this, we will have great results. And I'd like to thank everybody that's taking the time. Like Donald was on a show last night for 3 hours. That's commitment. That's time out of his day. He's got family in his house. This is commitment. And if we all do our part, we're going to see great results. This is how we get our Canada back. is we all invest a few hours here and there, and it's not comfortable, but getting uncomfortable is the only way we're going to get through this. So love you all. Go out and have a cup of coffee with a friend, with a stranger, and find a problem to solve, because there's many. Love you.
Love you too, Granny. And this is not just Alberta's problem. This is Canada's problem. And right now we have 3 people on this stream who's not in Alberta. So we got Ontario with Donald, Saskatchewan with Mel, and the United States with Gord. We need more people, coast to coast, all over the place, to spread this out. It's not just Alberta's problem. It's Canada's problem. And if Canada doesn't have a good democracy, it's not going to be a good shining example for the world. So really, this is the world's problem that we need to try and fix here. And so, Gord, I'm going to let you kind of wrap up, and then I'll get to Mel and then Donald.
Well, thanks. Like I say, I don't have anything further to add other than thank you all for the efforts you're doing, and everybody in the chat, everybody that could possibly be listening to this. You know, yeah, it takes some time to write a letter. It takes some time to send an email, but like, you know, if we're going to fight back against Leviathan and try and do something for these guys, that's like the least you can do. And just keep talking about it. Don't let them shame you for being concerned. Don't let anyone gaslight you and say you're a conspiracy theorist or anything. This is real stuff. There's real things happening, and just, you know, keep fighting. Like, don't let the bastards win.
Absolutely, that should be on a T-shirt. Don't let the bastards win. Mel, do you want to see if your mic works, and then maybe you can answer the question of what your next step will be? No, we don't have a mic. Nope, sorry, we've lost your mic there, Mel. But you can reach out to me, and you can let me know what you're going to do, and we'll let everybody know. You can keep trying your mic. If I can hear you before the end, because you are unmuted, I will put you back on. But for now, Mel will reach out to me and let me know what she's going to be doing as her next step. So, Donald, do you sleep? You're going to need to get some rest, because, yeah, you did 3-hour marathon yesterday. You were on with us, and I'm sure you got a lot more planned for this week. You want to share that with us?
I'm really optimistic about what's happening. I've got now some mainstream journalists reaching out to me, and I see all the number of people who are, I mean, this broadcast on all the platforms grows every morning. And people, I see my website and the article and the Newsweek article. And I think once people hear about the Coutts Four, they do pay attention. And when they really get just a little more detail, they think, this is like a canary in the coal mine. There's something very wrong here. And this has so many, this Coutts Four issue has so many things wrong with it. It's such an illustration of the wrong path that our country and our government has gone down. But here is something we can focus on to help these men who deserve justice, but also to do something for our children and grandchildren, because we've got to do something. So let's focus on this for now. It's a great way of starting to change Canada to the Canada we remember and really would love to live in.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that, Donald. And then Mel, if you can maybe just say something and see if we got your audio back, and I'll put you on. Nothing yet. Okay. That's fine. Now, we just saw a comment there about Donald and I. We're doing a lot of work on Twitter, and so is Danielle. So between Donald, Danielle, and I, we are doing our best to get that information out. And if you're on Twitter, any help you can do on that is great. You can quote tweet, you can retweet, and you can let people know that Donald, Danielle, and I have some information. If you're media of any kind, brand new, established, if you're Rex Murphy or you're some person that's just wanting to get the message out, you can reach out to us. We'd be more than happy to have an interview with you, answer your questions. Like you saw what we did with Bray and Gord. They came on a show. We basically had the interview live. We're more than happy to do that with anybody who wants to get the truth out. Happy to work with you. So just reach out to Donald, Granny, myself, Danielle, Gord, Ray, and even Mel. If you know who Mel is, reach out to her. All of these are ways to get to the source of the information here. And if you have questions for the men, we can get it to them as well, get answers directly. And then don't forget, you can write directly as well. So we gave you all of those instructions here today. So on that note, I'm going to try one more time with Mel, because I know you just popped on to see if maybe you can reconnect. You got any audio?
Can you hear me now? I don't know why.
We're
Sorry.
back. We're back. There you go.
Okay.
You're back. You're back.
I'm
Yay.
sorry. I'm running through 2 sets of headphones and they're just not happy. Yeah,
well, one's not compatible with Thesis' system, apparently. So
yeah,
maybe the second one is.
Yeah, I guess
What's your
just
next
would
step?
say my next step, I have some mainstream people that I will reach out to. I know I said that I don't do that, but I'm still not going to give up. And just listening just gave me a lot of thoughts, and just overall, I mean, this is our Canada. This is our Canada. This could be anyone. This could have happened to anyone. And so I think once people realize that, and also I think they're showing the humanity in these poor men, their families, there's just so many stories that need to be told, so much truth. And I just think if we can share all of these angles, that I feel that mainstream media can't ignore us, and we just got to keep at it, and we got to share it every which way. So I know I'll be going to the sites that you guys have cited. Some of them I've already been to. Gord, I'll be sharing your story all over, which I have, every way that I can, and that's just the way I just, yeah. And I think I'll be doing some writing myself, so I will be in touch with some of you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Mel. Thanks for coming on. It's really nice to meet you.
Thanks for having me.
And the headset you're using right now, no scratching, sounds great. That's your go-to headset, okay?
Thank you.
Perfect. Well, folks, there we go. And I just want to address one comment I saw in from Railroaded, one of our good friends, Ali. Look, Railroaded, he may be talking about it, but he's not connecting to us about it. He's not connecting to the men, the family, or working with us in any way, shape, or form. Lots of people will mention the name Coutts, but they don't have all the information, and they're certainly not getting out more of the stuff that we've discovered. So I love the fact that he says the word Coutts, but I'd like to see him kind of connect with us and bring some more of the story forward about the men. He just doesn't know it yet. That's what we're talking about here, Railroaded. And then maybe Mel, maybe through your connections, you can get Rex's attention or somebody like that, and maybe they'll reach out as well. So if anybody else has anything else to say, I'm ready to wrap up here. No hands up. Okay. Thank you all very much for being here again today. And to let everybody know, tomorrow is meant to be the medical day. We're going to try and get a doctor or a naturopath or somebody who can talk about Alberta Health Services and stuff like that. Granny, that's still the plan for tomorrow? Okay, so we're going to be working on that. So if you are one of those people that want to be able to talk, reach out, because we do want to get some information about naturopath options and Alberta Health Services. And the focus tomorrow is going to be about the men's health. So thank you all very much for being here. All right, folks, there you go. A great group on this panel where we're talking about taking action. A lot of us are sitting here watching this story come together, understanding, getting more details. After 5.5 weeks, you've got lots of it. So go ahead and reach out, spread the truth. If you see somebody who says those are body armor, who does that? And you say, no, it's a vest, and Albertan farmers do that, especially hunters, because it carries pockets and stuff like that. Yeah, get the truth out there. And Ian Runkle, cheers, buddy. I understand as soon as you get back from the UK, you're going to be getting in touch with us. I am so sorry about the story that you're going through right now, Ian. I won't spread it. I'll let you do that. But my gosh, you are a good man, and I appreciate the efforts that you did there. And any efforts you can do with us, that'll be wonderfully accepted. So for all of those who says, where's Ian Runkle? He is involved now. He's just dealing with an issue or an effort that he was attempting to do. So he'll be back from the UK. And then I actually had at least one person that has a radio station reach out to us and said, hey, can I rebroadcast your stuff? Absolutely. Okay. So if you want to take this and put it on your radio station, rebroadcast it, you want to put it on your Telegram, you want to put it into your Signal, you want to do it into your show, go for it. Happy to. There's no copyrights here. We want that information out. So if you want to just take our stuff and rebroadcast it, please do. Get this around the world. And I actually had one person ask if they cared if they translated it. Of course not. You want to put this into French. You want to have this in French. You want to do this in other languages. Please do. Please do. No consent needed. Just take it. The entire purpose of this is to spread the reach. And then also understand there might be some Twitter spaces coming up. Good idea. Twitter spaces where a lot of people can get together and chat. That's a good idea. My hope, though, is you make sure you have some good information, because Twitter spaces can spread just as anything else. They can spread bad information too. So my hope is anybody hosting Twitter spaces, go to the sources and use them. That's the best way to make sure that you have good information out there. So we really don't need to revigorate any bad pieces of information. So thank you all very much for your attempts on that. Thank you all for your interest in that. And I look forward to hearing about, reading about, and seeing a lot more information being put out there by you guys, the ones that are watching right now. Thank you all very much. I love you, and God bless.